This is a board workshop. And Mrs. Perry, do I need to open this by a vote?
I don't think so, Robin. We haven't in the past.
Okay. All right.
The one thing you do have two resolutions this evening, remember?
Right, after the workshop.
Right. So I wasn't sure if you had to start a meeting or not. I wasn't sure how that worked.
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
I think we have to. And
I believe at our last one we did.
Yeah,
we did at our last one.
Would someone move to open this meeting?
I'll move it.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? I'm a yes.
Okay. Mr. DiGilarm.
Yes.
Mrs. Alvagore.
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Yes.
Mr. Cordone.
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons.
Yes.
To go.
Okay, so this workshop's now open, and Mr. Polvino, I'm turning it over to you.
All right. Do you always want we continue to have questions? Do we have questions open this evening as far as the clerk? You know how we normally do it at a board meeting? Okay. Very good. All right. So this evening, I just wanted to provide an update. Great news, and I'm going to have Betsy's going to do an overview, but great news was that we had great feedback. I'm glad that, and thank you to our staff for making a lot of phone calls, reaching out. A lot of work went on through the weekend and actually through today, as well as we go through the numbers. But the good news is our elementary, we did get to the percentages that we needed to do our 4 days per week. So there's no adjustment there. So that's great news for us. So with that, I'm going to go right to Betsy. We'll try to be right to the point tonight, and we'll go from there. So Ms. Connors, and then the rest of the team will chime in. The other thing I'd like to press publicly, just as something, we are starting to see some things around the 20% reductions. And at the state level, it happened with the pre-K grant coming out, and Betsy can speak to that if she'd like to. But we're hearing that 20%, and we've also seen some other things. So again, I don't want us to forget, we're out well beyond the budget process, but we also know throughout our budget process, a lot of our decision making was really having the foresight to really think about possible impacts that the state was experiencing during COVID. And I did see something out of the comptroller's office this weekend that $14 billion is still on target for this fiscal year. So again, I just wanted to bring that up and remind you that the fiscal times, although things are looking brighter here in New York State, as far as getting everything reopened and things like that. I saw gyms, I think, today or thereabouts. But there's also some fiscal impacts that are going to go that are continuing. So with that, Ms. Connors.
All right. Well, welcome to the board workshop. This is going to be my last board workshop. So you know what they say, go big or go home. So we're ready for this. And before I start, I really just want to let you know this is a team effort from the STM. There's a lot of input that went into this tonight. And I want to thank my team for the great job that they did. And I just am the one that gets to present to you tonight. So, and I'm thrilled to be able to have that opportunity. So, but I got to warn you before I lose all of you when I put the presentation up, this is a no opt-out situation. So I'm going to be using some strategies later and calling on you. So make sure you're paying attention so that when I call on you, you're ready, because we are right now in a synchronous setting and we're virtual as well. So I want you to be thinking of that as we go into this presentation tonight.
It definitely is your last one, I can tell.
Way too happy.
Exactly. So, all right. Can everybody see my screen? Is everybody there?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I just realized it's not back at the beginning. So hold on. All right. So again, tonight we're going to go on the COVID response tour. And this really is a journey. Take a minute and look at the slides that are in front of you. And in particular, Mrs. Abelgore, I need you to focus on that graduation one. Because it seems like just yesterday, we were in June wondering how we were going to get through graduation. And yet right now that seems so close, but yet so far in the past. So in March, all of our lives were changed forever. Just pause for a moment and think about how things were in March, and now, several months later, where we're at in August. And again, just look at these scenes that have occurred in the Fulton City School District over the past few months. There's a lot to absorb here. But now it's time to move on and focus on several things tonight. But number one, and for everybody out there that's watching tonight, there are a lot of questions on your mind. But the first one in particular is learning. What will it look like? We're going to talk a little bit about that. And as every great educator watching out there knows, we start with our KWL chart. What do we know? What do we want to know? And what have we learned? So again, I want you to think about that as we're going through this in a synchronous setting. So the first one is data and your voice. And where would I be without thanking my counterpart, Mr. Dan Carroll, for the amount of data that he provides us with, analyzes for us, so that we can truly make data-informed decisions. We have taken the time to listen through multiple forums, and we are taking the time to collect survey information to really know what it is that we have facts to base our decisions on. And this is really important for us to remember, and the place the data plays in all of this. So right now, I want to take you through some numbers. And I have to do a quick shout out to Diane Blazinski out there, and to our building principals and their secretaries. So the building principals and secretaries, when we said we were still lacking some numbers, they started making phone calls to make sure that we've had every family contacted to find out, were they interested in a totally virtual option for their student, or were they going to send their child in person? And then we needed to figure out how many classrooms were we going to need. Shout out to Diane Blazinski, because on Saturday night at 11 o'clock, Diane and I were still crunching numbers. And then to Dan Carroll, who came in today with another piece of data, just so we could all make sure we were on the same page. So again, starting to look at what do our numbers look like in order to do virtual and in person. And as Mr. Polvino said, took away my thunder, but yes, our elementary will be in session 4 days a week for our in-person students. So let's look at these numbers and where we ended up. Now, again, what I want to remind you is this is K through 5 right now for the elementary, and we are basing this on classroom size of 12 as the average. So you can see the total number, and the numbers are pretty much the same throughout. There's Granby. Again, you can see that virtual. And we're going to talk, we're not going to get into some of the minutia tonight that I know you're going to want to get to, because tomorrow morning we have a 3 to 4 hour principal meeting where we're going to hammer out. Now we've got the data, then we're going to get on to the next steps. There's Lanigan. You can see that asterisk by number 49 for grade 4. So Mr. Hendrickson and I spoke this morning, and we know we have some bigger classrooms. Many of our older classrooms are larger. So he does have classrooms that can hold 13 and 14. And again, that's not our norm. We based it on 12. Balney. And again, you can see at each grade level, how many will be virtual, how many will be in person, and how many classrooms will we need. And then our total of students down at the bottom. Junior high, again, for COVID-19 school only, 6th graders are at the junior high. You may remember, you see I've split the number because our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders will be on an AABB schedule. Okay. And then GRB. Again, how many are virtual? How many are in person? How many classrooms? We need to be remembering that kids will go to an elective when they're at GRB, as well as some will be going to a science room for a science lab. So it's
Betsy,
not, go ahead.
Will the junior high be moving at all? The 7th and 8th grader, will they be staying in
They're
one
going to
location?
stay in their rooms. Okay.
And how will that work for the, particularly for the LOT sections?
Hang on 1 minute because I'm going to get to that in a minute, Dave, okay? All
Yep.
right? Okay. Okay, so again, this is just a pure number look that I wanted to give you. Now we're going to move on to, what do you want to know or wonder? This is a big piece that people are grappling with right now. And I'm going to be honest with you, right from administration all the way down to our students, we're grappling with learning. What's it going to look like? I want to show you a couple infographics here that kind of demonstrate what our instruction will look like. And first of all, there's those two terms that we keep using, asynchronous and synchronous learning. So I want you to look at the asynchronous learning because it is learning. And I want to clarify that it is learning, but it's done through discussion boards, quizzes, polls. You can read some of those right there. Recorded audio or video, recorded slides with narration, self-paced courses. Those are all different examples. When we move over to synchronous, that's that virtual classroom or live presentations, using that chat feature, live audio or video, live polling. These are all pieces that go into the synchronous learning. So I want to clarify that both are learning. They're just different ways of learning. So asynchronous, you can see right there what it is. It's more driven by that student, but it's also delivered, again, it may be recorded, but delivered from that teacher. And then there's synchronous, which is live and in person. Now let's talk about online learning and blended learning. So again, you can have face-to-face learning occurring. You can have online learning, and then where they intersect, that's that blended learning model. So our students are going to experience some face-to-face learning. And again, that's pre-K through 12, some face-to-face learning. They're going to have some online learning. And again, it's a blended model. We've talked a lot about flipped classroom. Again, flipped classroom, there's learning that occurs in class and there's learning that occurs out of class. And you can see what occurs before, where students prepare, during, when they're practicing their key concepts, and then after, where they're checking for understanding. So again, when we talk about learning, these are just some of the examples of what can occur in an online and blended learning opportunity. Now, here's where we're going to talk about some hybrid and remote scheduling models. I want to be very careful to caution everyone watching that this is not the be all and end all. This is a beginning of us showing you what it might look like the day in the life of a student in the Fulton City School District at a couple of levels. Now, again, it doesn't mean that your child's exact schedule will look like this, but it gives you some examples because again, we're coming together tomorrow to really hammer out some of this work. This has been an extremely heavy lift for all of us because not only are our students learning in a different environment, but our teachers are teaching in a different environment and our administrators are practicing leadership in a different environment. And all of these things are a change process. Now, Mrs. Griffin has listened to me for years say that change takes 3 to 5 years. Never have I said change takes 3 to 5 weeks or 3 to 5 months, but that's what has been in front of us through all of COVID. So here is a sample week for a 9th grade student. And again, I just talked to you a little bit about asynchronous and synchronous learning because asynchronous work is still learning. And it's still a mode of providing instruction. So here you can see the bell schedule. You can see what a student might go through in an asynchronous day. There may be some independent reading, work on a long-term project. And again, some of this is not different. If you talk to your child, some of it is not different than they do right now when they go into a class and they might watch a portion of a video. They might be doing some reading. So again, some of this is what does occur every day in our classrooms. Then on Tuesday, you would go to that synchronous online remote learning day, but you would sit through your class and have your elective, math, science, English. And again, this is a sample. It doesn't mean this is the way the bell schedule will run. I really want you to pay attention to guided study hall because that is our SEL time. That is our time. You will see that SEL time throughout every schedule I'm going to present to you tonight because we recognize that our students have been through trauma. We all have. This is not how we've wanted to live the last few months. So again, we need to provide those emotional supports for all of our children. Again, you can see Wednesday an asynchronous day. Thursday might be your in-person day at GRB. And then Friday again is an asynchronous day. We are making sure that if we have an assessment, whether it be a type of common assessment or an assessment for a student, that it occurs in that online asynchronous day so that again, we can ensure that our teaching and learning is occurring during those synchronous times. So a sample week for a 7th grade student on an A schedule. Again, Monday is that asynchronous day. And then we go on to Tuesday and Wednesday in person. And then Thursday and Friday, a combination of synchronous and asynchronous learning. And again, notice how at the junior high, where we have a little more flexibility, we're going to be using a humanities block and a STEM block. That provides wonderful opportunities for our students for on their at-home day, so they may be with a science teacher for one day and the math teacher the next day. You can see their when, what I need time, PE, and AIS. Now, again, we're still determining what some of those things look like because we know that PE needs to take place when we're 12 feet apart, not 6 feet apart.
Betsy, can you scroll down? We couldn't see the whole slide, at least maybe the last block.
Let me see. Oh,
Sorry.
all right, Mr. Lisi, what am I doing wrong here?
Nothing. You should be able to see it. That you
Now
blocked
I
by
can
that.
see it. I don't know if it
Okay.
was just me, but I couldn't see the whole slide.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we go to a week at a glance for K through 3 students. And again, shout out to Mrs. Witter for making sure we stay true to our literacy instruction, because again, what does our strategic coherence plan say? It states that we will focus on literacy instruction pre-K through grade 3. And this stays true to that. And so you can see our core knowledge strand, our listening and learning, our math, our social emotional learning, and then also our student lunch is in there. And again, we want to make sure we stay true to how much time, if we were in person, our students would be having in ELA and in math. So I want to make sure that everybody takes a good look at that. All right. Now, I'm going to move on for a minute and move on to what is available for people on our website. So right now, sure, it tells me it's unavailable. Okay. So when you go to our website and go to the reopening of the Fulton City School District, you are going to see many things. Many of you have seen the tour of our classrooms. But what else is on here are some great resources for you and for our community. And the first one is our different work groups that are occurring right now. So you can see our district safety committee. And again, what we looked at was the reopening focus area that was in our reopening plan, what the work group is that's coming together, and what the meeting dates are going to be. And I know we've had some great safety committee discussions. Liz Tiffany has been doing a great job of working with our after-school childcare partners. For those meetings have been occurring. And I know some of you have been asking about attendance. We have our attendance committee. Kathy Adams has been working with Tracy Mosier on special education that many of our families have been talking about. Dan Carroll gets the school schedules and thank you to Dan for pulling those together tonight. Again, tomorrow is a big one when we're having family engagement come together. You can see I have some notes on there of some people who had reached out to me to make sure I didn't forget them. Mr. Els will be putting together that athletics and extracurricular one that many parents have been reaching out to me about. And so we're making sure that we stay true to those areas that have been identified in the different work groups. So please take a minute and check that out. So again, when you go back to our website, you can also see, I'm going to scroll down because this is very exciting piece that I'm unveiling right now, and that is our updated reopening frequently asked questions. That's why they don't let me drive the
Ms. Connors, I'm not sure.
Yes.
Is everybody else's screen changing? Mine is still on the PowerPoint. Is everybody
Oh,
else's
is it? Okay.
changed or not? I just want to make sure.
Mine is still on.
Okay, then let me get out of that.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Ms. Connors. I wanted to make, you were doing such a great job, but there's such great stuff to see when you're talking.
Oh, I'm talking all right. You're right. All right, so I'm going to take you now to the website. Boy, oh boy, hold on. This is why Dem says to me, you sure you're going to? All right, here we go. I'm going to get it. Okay. Can you see it now?
It's spinning right now. Yes, you can see the FCSD reopening FAQs.
All right, so we're all there. Oh, that's good because I was making you seasick before when I was scrolling around. So again, let me take you to the reopening work groups just so you can see it. There is our reopening work group. Again, like I said, there's all the committees and the dates that they're meeting. So if there are community members that are interested in being part of a work group or students, please reach out. We need your voice to be heard. All right, now I'll unveil the frequently asked questions that we're so excited about. So below you're going to find many of the frequently asked questions that parents have brought to our attention and community members and even the Board of Education. So we start with, when is the first day of school? And tonight we know that you're going to act on our calendar, amending our calendar so that we can have professional development days, because when I talked to you a few minutes ago about that synchronous and asynchronous learning, that blended learning, our teachers, I cannot stress enough the heavy lift in front of our teachers to make some significant changes in our delivery of instruction in order to provide that blended learning. So we want to make sure we have filled their toolbox to the top with strategies. And then again, you can go all the way down. There are all sorts of different questions. You can see the answers. I want to do a shout out to Wendy Scalfaro, who has been an intern working with me on the reopening. She has done a phenomenal job of pulling this information together. There are still a few that we're working on getting answers to. And again, we will have those up in the next 24 to 48 hours. But one of the things we know is big. Will students be required to wear masks? Yes, face coverings will be worn by students at all times, except for during scheduled and naturally occurring breaks. So again, all of these questions that we've heard from the community in our forums, you can now have them in writing, okay, right here on our website. So we encourage everyone to take some time and visit the website, okay? I think you'll be pleased with what you see. So I'm going to stop sharing now so I can get back to, how are you all doing? Are you with me? We're okay? All right, we're going to keep going on this journey then. All right. Okay. So now we want to talk for a minute about culture. So we've talked about how resilient we are in Fulton and our ability to change when we're challenged. Because just like the sign in my front yard, I keep telling people about, we are Fulton strong. We do not have all the answers. I've said this 1,000 times, and I know people are a little tired of that, but we don't know all the answers. But we are willing to listen to the questions and to listen to the concerns that our community has. Because this is a big, parents are having to make a tough decision about whether they want their students enrolled in online instruction or in person. I will tell you what I've told every parent that I've spoken to, either on the phone, via email, or during a forum. There is no wrong answer. You have to do what is best for you and your family. And we will provide the structures that we can provide based on the information we have to work with and the staffing and facilities that we have to work with. It really is a time to stop and thank the work that our principals, administrative staff, teachers, parents, and our students have done during this time. The students that got on last week and talked with me, they were phenomenal. They shared their concerns. Can I bring a water bottle? Will I be able to carry my EpiPen? I mean, things that are so much on their minds that we as adults, maybe we had thought about for a minute, but not from the lens of a child. And again, we need to stop and pause and listen to our children. We have a new HR director, Jerry Geithner. She has been holding meetings with individual staff that have requests for accommodations or leave. We will continue to show empathy and support for our staff by working through each request on a case-by-case basis. At the same time, we will work to ensure we can provide the educational program our students need and deserve. So it's really important that we think about that. And the words at the bottom of this slide, when we talk about change, compassion, resilience, we will address all of these areas, but some of those answers, not everybody's going to like, but we will listen and we will do the best that we can for our kids and our district. The assurances, the must-dos that we have received, those mandates from the State Education Department, the CDC, those are all the rules and the expectations that you see in our plan. on our website. They are those basic needs. How will we feed our kids? How will we transport our kids? What are the rules going to be? Where can the kids sit on the bus? All of those things that are so crucial. And then the reassurances. We've said it before and we'll say it again and again. Our number one most important thing is the health and safety of our children and our staff and our families. That's number one. SEL, that is social emotional learning, and the well-being of our students, their families, and our staff. And then learning and instruction. We will teach our students. They will learn, I am confident, and we will assess that learning so that they can demonstrate all the great things that they have learned in a situation that is not ideal. I started in the beginning by talking about the journey. In many ways, the journey has just begun. This is a time when we need to craft the story. As Mr. Polvino always says, it's about the story. We need to craft the story of the Fulton City School District and not let COVID-19 craft that story for us. We need to be flexible and supportive, yet ready to respond to whatever is thrown our way. We are going to make decisions. I'm confident on this. We are going to make decisions based on what is best for our kids. Whoop. I lost you for a minute. All right. I'm going to stop sharing right now. And what I'm going to ask is I'm going to use a strategy that I would use with students right now if I were in the classroom. And I'm going to hold up your name, and I want you to talk about what you heard and what questions, what you feel really pointed on. You feel really good. You're squared up on it. What jumped out at you, what's pointed and clear, and what is still circling in your brain like, I don't got it yet. All right. Fallon, you get to go first. Again, this is a no opt-out. You can say you want me to come back to you. That's fine, but you cannot opt out.
Oh no, Mrs. Conders, I was taking notes. I am fully prepared.
Okay.
So I first want to say I am ecstatic that we're able to maintain the plan that we have. It's phenomenal. I wanted to also comment when you talked about the staff and their calling. I know I got numerous phone calls. That amount of work is absolutely amazing. I think the staff did an amazing job reaching out to all the families involved. I can't be more prouder of the work that came together to form that teamwork to get that job done. In the website, I am ecstatic about the website. The work groups, I love that communication with the families to get them involved. I love the new frequently asked question page. I'm the schedule, I'm glad that we're kind of looking, I know it's fluid and it's subject to change, but I'm glad that we've got at least something out there. I'm very excited.
All right. Good. Thank you very much. Nick, look it, your name's up next. Oh, you're muted, Nick.
I just did my whole, I just answered all your questions and you put me in order. I'm glad to see that the work groups have expanded. The last safety meeting I attended was very well received, very well attended, and which in the past have not been. I liked your, what learning looks like, or what it's, what we know, what we want to know, and what we learned. You made it very, very clear. I think it also gives us a path as to where we're going based on what we've learned. Lessons learned is what we always said in the Navy. What did we learn by our mistakes? I like the fact that it's data driven and that your data is up to date. And Also, let's see. I had something else, but I don't have a note here for it.
All right. We can always come back.
You can come back to me.
All right. All right, Lynn.
Well, I have a question because I guess
All
I
right.
don't really, maybe I didn't listen well. At the high school level,
Okay.
the kids, are they going 2 days? Because it showed ninth graders going 2 days. Is that correct?
They're
Why?
going 1 day. They're having 2 days of synchronous learning, but they're
Okay.
going to school
day.
1 day.
Okay, all right.
And the other days will be that asynchronous learning.
All right. I just didn't understand that.
That's okay.
I'm grateful for all the work everybody's done. I have talked to some people that are in other school districts, and they have great confusion as to what's going on at this point. And listening to the governor today, he talked about having your group talks with parents and children. You guys have done extremely well doing all that. And I know some other school districts that have not. So I commend you all for that. Thank you for all the hard work.
Mr. Polvino told me the other night, he goes, how many of these did you do? Because they're exhausting, but they're well worth it, as he said. All right, Brenda, you're up.
Oh boy. Okay, I just have a couple questions. So when I'm looking at that high school schedule, I know that they're going to be moving a little bit, right? This is our one group that's going to be moving around the building a little bit. Like
Just
if they
to
have a
electives.
lab or if they have like that special elective.
Yep.
So how does that look as far as when we release our kids? Will there be a lot of kids in the hallway at a time, or do we have it like kind of staggered?
Right, it's not everybody's going to go at once. Mrs. Parkhurst has a great plan for that to make sure that doesn't happen.
And then they would go back to their regular room
Their
where they're
home.
doing homeroom, when that's where they're doing lunch and their guided study hall and their 4 core classes.
Yep, they're in the process of mapping out those final details. Because
Okay.
we spent 2 hours with her today, and she has got a handle on it that many of us don't have as good a handle as she does.
Oh, I'm sure she does. I'm sure her plan is phenomenal. So like the one time they move during the day, so let's say it's a science lab, then all of their other electives or their languages, that's going to be done.
And online. Yep, and an online learning. Yep.
Okay. Question about our faculty and how you were saying that you're working on a case-by-case basis with them for those who can't come back or are asking for a leave. Would they or might they be some of our faculty that we'll use to do the online learning? Because my only concern is how it will work for that individual classroom teacher who's trying to keep track of who's online and who's in the classroom at any given time. So that's my one hang up.
And we actually have a plan for that. That's some of what we worked through today at the high school and what we'll be working through K-8 tomorrow.
Okay. And you'll get
So
back.
I know that's not a lot of the details that you're looking for, but we need another week.
Okay. All right.
All right. I'm gonna ask for that extra week.
Okay. That sounds like
All
a
right.
plan. Thank you.
All right, Dave, are you still with me? Because you're next.
Robin can go ahead of me if she'd like.
Oh no, Tim's got to go too, but you're
Oh,
pick.
Tim's gotta go. Okay. So I did have a question, like Brenda, regarding our staff that might have asked for any kind of accommodation. And I'm wondering about if our plan then is allowing staff to, with underlying conditions, to teach remotely, if that means they'll be given students, a set of students that they might not be responsible for physically if we find ourselves back in session. So do you understand what I mean? So I'm wondering about that transition. I know some districts are looking at certification areas and trying to utilize staff. But I'm just wondering about those students then that get shuffled between one teacher to another. And I do have some concern about that for students in their continuity of learning and their relationship, as we know how important that is through our work with social emotional learning, teacher relationships with students. Because unlike the spring where we knew students when they left us physically and were, working remotely, the teachers are starting a school year without actually knowing their students and having spent time with them. And that is of concern to me. Am I hearing that you're working those details out and we'll get more information?
Well, here's what I can tell you. Guided study hall time, those SEL times, they will be with their teacher that they will have. Beyond that, we are still working out the details. Just like if we went back to school, there's no way 6th graders would remain at the junior high.
Right. I'm just more thinking of their teacher, though. They would still have their teacher. It'd be a different building, but they would still be in front of their teacher. And I'm wondering if that's consistent across all situations, or will there be situations, maybe that's a better question to ask, where we have staff that are needing to be, they need accommodation to perform their duties, and we are accommodating them by giving them students that they'll work with in this scenario, but when we're back in a physical situation on campus, they won't have those students. Does that make sense?
And to be honest, yes, it does make sense. I think right now I'm not ready to make a final answer on that. But it is one that we will write down and come back to you with, just like with Brenda's question.
And likewise, again, I'm getting, my concern is about the kids and the relationship. Yep. The other thing I know that we're glad that we can offer the 4 days for the students that want it. And I know that those families from the families I've spoken with, they are very grateful. But I'm concerned about then, I believe the number was 30% that are not going to be
correct
physically present at any point. And they are still our students, and
correct.
I'm concerned about their experience. Even though their parents have made a choice, I'm concerned that they still they're going to be in our data. They're our responsibility. They're going to come back to a teacher that they haven't met or perhaps had physical interaction with. And so I'm just wondering what our planning is around that. And I know that you guys have done a tremendous amount of work. Most districts have, but I just think that, I want to put that out there, and I don't expect a response to it. But just as a concern for those kids, because like I said, they're still our students. Even though they're
Absolutely.
Not physically in the building, they're equally, as important and have the right to an education as well.
And a high quality education as well.
Correct.
We spent a lot of time today talking about equity and access. That's a huge piece of our plan, is ensuring that all kids have access to a highly qualified teacher and to the materials that they need. And we will ensure that there is equity and access.
And one of the other questions that I wondered about is, the assessment of those students as they are learning remotely. Do we know, like for our screening, for STAR, for example, how will that happen? Do we know, or have we figured out a way that can happen for our students who are learning remotely, that we will get a data point for the fall at least, and then perhaps even if we're still in this model, in January?
What I love about your question, Dave, it is clearly consistent with what you asked at the board meeting. So I appreciate that. So we actually started to talk about that today, but we have not made it enough into that conversation to be able to share anything with you. But I am glad that you continue to ask that question. And by Tuesday night, we're going to give you an update. I'm just not sure what that update's going to be yet.
Yeah, and that may even be too soon as well, because I know
it may be. It may be.
And I wondered more particularly about the temperature check. And I'll be honest, I have not been able to pay as attention to our plan as the one I have to live in. So I'm just wondering, I know SCD was allowing for parents. Where did we land as a district for the temperature check?
So right now we're taking temperatures before students get on the bus and before they enter the building.
We are, or the bus driver is, or who's doing the temperature check?
We will have an aide on the bus.
Okay.
Who will take that temperature before the student enters the bus, and we will have a staff member that will be present at the building before either the entrance that the students that dropped off come in, or a walker entrance, whichever, depending on where the school is located.
And just a few more questions, and that's why I wanted
That's
to go
all
back.
right.
But I'm glad that you were putting me toward the end. How do you find, if you've been able to think about it at all, that our hybrid model aligns with our 5-year strategic coherence plan? Are we still able to support that plan? Are there areas where we are really going to be challenged that we still have to work through, or do we know that we're in alignment there?
As Mr. Lisi would say, this has given us a chance to really look at that innovation piece to see if what we had written in there we could really bring to fruition. It really maintains that, as I said, that focus on the early literacy. It gives the SEL focus that we've remained passionate about. And then also the whole idea of leadership and that strategic coherence plan is about bringing coherence. This has forced us to put structures in place that are bringing coherence. And the instructional, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and that circles back to I know that I believe that from what I heard, that's true for the students that are going to be physically with us. And it's the students that are learning remotely that I'm just wondering about, and you know what I mean? The experience that they will have, and how we will make sure, as you said, that we're providing them the level of education that we're required to do.
Correct. There will be learning targets, whether you're in a virtual world or whether you're in an in-person world. There will be formative assessment, whether you're in a virtual setting or whether you're in an in-person setting. So some of those structures that we know are good, solid instruction are still going to occur. Differentiated instruction and scaffolding for our SWDs and our English language learners is still going to occur, whether you're in a virtual setting or in a in-person setting or a hybrid setting. So that's where our challenge is right now, Dave, to be honest with you, is the learning and the instruction. And that's why those professional development days become so crucial.
And with that, the guidance recommended that our ESL students and our special class students attend every day. Does the model support that for those two populations?
Correct. They will be attending the 4 days a week. Yes, they will.
Yep. And then I'm just have a couple more, I think.
No, we're good. Keep them coming.
Attendance wise. So, the word out there, there's always a wonderment is, the requirement to track attendance, whether students are learning remotely, whether they're learning asynchronously or synchronously. How are we going to be tracking student attendance to ensure that we won't lose state aid, at any point?
Perfect. We are putting structures in place for attendance. We'll be taking attendance still through school tool. So the attendance will still be taken. And if you saw, again, Liz Tiffany has a attendance work group that will be working on this issue as well. So we have the management part of attendance, and then we have, what do we do if students are not attending?
Right.
So we have both pieces that will occur.
And on the Mondays when they are learning virtually, all students, how will we track their attendance on those days?
We have a system that we're putting in place to do that based on when they're engaged in their learning.
Okay, so there is a plan. And
there is an absolute plan.
I think I only had one more.
Okay, come on.
And that is, so, we're required, by law to provide an education to all students. And what happens, what is the legal word if a parent who chooses remote learning initially and then says, you know what, I want something different for my child before our desired point, which I think was 10 weeks, correct? We wanted families to commit for 10 weeks. What if a family 5 weeks in says, this is just not going to work for us? Do we have a plan for any situation like that would not deny them a change?
We would need to address it on a case-by-case basis, because right now we are saying 10 weeks. So if a situation changes, we would meet with them to talk about the why behind it.
But what if they persist and say, you know, they're really adamant and they advocate?
Then we'll go through we'll have a process in place for that. I'm not going to say we have one today because we don't, but we would obviously, our first thing would be to have a meeting and to talk about that.
Yeah, I guess my concern is that I know we worked hard to get to a point where we can ensure the number of students in a physical setting, learning environment with a teacher, and that ratio is a delicate balance. And you know, I just wonder, it could go in either direction. There could be parents that say that they want, you know, my child wants to learn remotely as well. And but you're saying that the process will be that there will be a process for them to
there will be a process
to follow. Okay, great, thank you.
And even between, I will tell you, just a minute, Fallon, I'll come right back to you. I will tell you that between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock tonight, I had 3 more parents reach out to me to have their children go to an online setting. So again, we will address them as the need, but in order for numbers, we really have to start out saying it's a 10-week commitment.
Oh, and just one more. Thanks, you gave me time to think. Sorry.
I shouldn't have given you time to think.
In terms of breakfast and lunch, are those the students having those like boxed or bagged or whatever in the classroom setting?
Correct. And any student who is engaged in online learning will still get the food just like we did in the March closure.
Thank you. That's a lot of information. I appreciate all of your answers.
No problem. All right, Phelan, back to you.
Okay, Mr. Cordone brought some really great questions and it made me think a little bit harder, so thank you. So he made up some really great points about connectivity, and I just remembered that on the 10th and the 11th, the students will be going virtually, and Chromebooks for those students who don't have them. I apologize, I have not looked at the frequently asked questions page yet.
Okay.
It's brand new, and I'm assuming it's probably on there, but how do we get those students ahead of time, those Chromebooks?
I'm not letting Mr. Lisi answer this because I'm going to answer it to see if I got it right. Okay. So this week, by the end of the week, Mr. Lisi is going to be reaching out to all of our families in multiple modes of communication to find out what do they need via Chromebooks or connectivity so that we can ensure that we are ready to go on the first day of school of virtual learning. How'd I do, Mr. Lisi? Was I listening?
I could not have done that better myself. Amazing.
See? So I was listening today, even though he thought I wasn't. So
don't go far, Mr. Lisi. So I know that we're working on multiple ways of communication and we have the new website. I know that one of the things that we were working on was the new app. Is that still on target to be rolled out in September to improve communication with families?
It most certainly is.
Very good answer. And then last question, do we know yet if teachers have been assigned to students or when that is going to be released to families, what teacher they have?
Okay, this is going to be, this is my unhappy message for people that are listening because they're going to want to know tomorrow. And I am saying that it will be the week of August 31st before we have that information out. So that's the week of August 31st into that early September week, because now that we have numbers, we have to do the heavy lift of figuring out, and we are going to try to the best of our ability to make sure there's some connection, if possible, between our junior high, high school kids coming in and our 6th graders. So there's some family aspect we want to try. I cannot promise, but there are some pieces we're going to try to accommodate. That all of that is going to take us a little bit of time.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to know if we had a day in that, like,
no,
you know, by the 31st, or we'll be rolling it out around then, so families can be on the lookout for that.
And that's a great point, Fallon. We should put that on our FAQ chart. So Mr. Lisi, get on that. All right. Now moving on. Tim, I didn't forget you.
Whoa.
This is a no opt-out.
Well, most all my questions have been asked.
Okay.
But I think everything looks good. You know, nothing's 100%. You never know what's going to come up that nobody even thought of. I mean, some things arise. You can't think of everything. But I'm sure we'll handle it. I'm confident in that. I'm especially confident in elementary. I don't see problems there. It's mostly high school and junior high. I see where we'll probably have problems, but I'm sure we'll have the answers.
If not, I'm confident the
if not-
team will work hard to do that.
Even though your last day is what, the 31st? We still have your
Right.
phone number. So you'll be consulting.
All right.
Other than that, I think everything looks good.
All right. And
But I think
Robin. Oh,
we have done, I think we have done work Brian a little too hard. I notice he must have been straining his eyes because I see he's wearing glasses.
yes.
But he better slow down.
Yeah,
That's it.
I'm learning how to use them. Let's put it that way. So.
All right, Lynn, back to you. You raised your hand so nicely.
I wanted to ask about how we're going to be utilizing our, like our aides and our TAs also.
That's a great question, Lynn. So we are in the process right now of going through to determine where our needs are so that we can match those needs with our staff. And so again, I know it's hard because they're all anxious to know what they're going to be doing. There are going to be roles for them. I just can't tell you exactly what they are until we get into it, because even just one of the things we know, we know we don't have enough aides on buses right now to be able to take those temperatures. So we have to think about where are we going to get the people to fill those roles. So, it'll be an evolving process.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Robin, your name's up.
All righty. Lots of good questions.
Great questions.
First of all, I want to say I appreciate the time spent on the focus groups, gathering concerns from all of our stakeholders. And I noted that some of those were addressed in what you presented tonight. So it goes to show that people are listened to. I will also, though, admit, as you already have, Betsy, that not everyone's going to be happy or totally happy with any plan, and it's not for lack of trying. I do believe that a great effort's been made to try to meet everyone's desire. It's just not possible with the numbers that we're working with. I appreciate the data, as Nick said. It's good that we have current data and the decisions are being driven by good data. I wanted to say that if I understood you correctly, that this plan we're looking at tonight is a lot like our strategic coherence plan in that it's a living document. It is subject to change as maybe conditions warrant or we discover that there was something we didn't think about. Is that correct?
That's 100% correct,
Okay.
Robin.
All right. I can't stress that enough to folks. It's a living document. And again, I think that we have to ask people and remind them great patience is going to be necessary to help our kids have a successful school year without a lot of unnecessary anxiety. So we do that as adults by making them feel good about what's taking place. And I hope we all remember that and save our conversations for just among us adults. I wanted to know, Betsy, if someone moved into the district after the school year starts, what's your plan for those folks?
That's a great question, Robin. And actually right now, we have, as many parents out there may know, we have about 55 students in our query right now that are in the process of getting all their information in. But we're also exiting we're exiting students every day right now. I think we exited 6 today. Okay. So again, talking about that fluidity, we have to come up with the plan that's going to best address the needs as we start to see more ins and outs of our students. And I can't stress to parents enough, if you have, in the elementary, if you've changed your catchment area, like you've moved across the river or you've moved from, the north side of town on the west side to the south side, please make sure that you get a hold of the central registrar because you will be changing catchment and we want to make sure that we have all of the needs addressed.
I appreciate that. And then I'm thinking also about our McKinney-Vento students. That's a whole set of different issues that comes with those folks. And are we ready for that or are we still working on that?
Liz Tiffany is working with our family. She's doing a phenomenal job of reaching out and seeing what needs to occur in individual situations. So Liz, along with our school home liaisons, have been doing a great job. Jerry has trained a phenomenal team.
I also have heard great compliments to that go to Mrs. Geithner. You have demonstrated coming out of the gate your great skill at helping people solve problems, and it's greatly appreciated. I've heard nothing but great compliments, and I wanted to share that publicly. That and the reason I say that is because most of the time we walk our talk here in Fulton. I won't say all of the time because we all are capable of being fallible and not hitting the mark. But most of the time we hit the mark here. I think what lesson I would like for a takeaway for everyone is that because there's great effort put forward all the time to try to get it right. And again, I understand there's a great deal of anxiety for everyone, whether they're returning or they're opting to stay home. People are anxious about what that means, which leads me to my last question, I believe, is it sort of relates to David, so you might not have an answer, but everything I've read says from experts, people much smarter than me, that the first thing we have to do when the students return to us in whatever form they return is somehow figure out where their base is, because we may not have effectively assessed that at the end of the last school year. And so to help our kids get the most out of this year, that should be the first thing we're doing. And I'm just wondering, is that the plan here?
Well, and that's what we're having conversation about, is to figure out exactly. And even before that, though, I would say our first obligation is to their emotional well-being before we even jump into that, because many aren't going to be ready for that right out of the gate. We need to spend some time to see where they're at and many different levels. And then we need to move in. One of the things I can say is right now, our phenomenal teaching staff, under the guidance of Heather Witter and Will Meekum and our department chairs and our instructional coaches, are spending time right now looking at those essential of the essential standards and what is it we want our students to know and be able to do. They are engaging in great conversation, and that is going to help us know where do we need to start, Robin, as an organization before we even get to that individual student. And I just want to really applaud the work of our teachers.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate the teachers stepping up to help us get ready for this. And lastly, there is one more question. City. I'd like to know a little bit more in the future about what the plans are for our students that attend City. And I'm thinking about the kids like similar to P-TECH. There's more than just P-TECH, where they are taking the college and City provided coursework, and how that plan, what their plan is for our kids. And will they be able to stay on track to complete as they had planned, or is that going to be delayed at all?
Robin, our city board meeting is Wednesday, and I know that we've talked about some specific programs where the seat time for a certification, a test, an exam is an issue. But I know that they're working on that. So I expect an update. I'd be glad to share whatever I find, and maybe Betsy has more.
Yeah, I think we can bring that back to you on Tuesday night, and because I would like to share with you not only our city kids, but also our New Vision students, our early college, high school. Like you said, it's not just but all those ripple impact, so that people can hear.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. I know there's a great deal of concern about how things are going to work for kids who've chosen some very specialized programming. All right, I guess I can wrap it up. Thank you for the opportunity.
I got one more really.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, Mrs. Connors, your presentation tonight was absolutely outstanding. I mean, you knocked it out of the park with this one. So thank you for all your hard work. And then also, Robin, you triggered me about the public's feedback with Mrs. Geithner, but I've also wanted to say to Mr. Palvino, I've been hearing a lot of information, a lot of feedback with your videos and the community is finding them very helpful, very reassuring. They're glad of the continued communication, so well done with that. And thank you. And that's it. I
Yep.
promise.
So one of the last shout outs I'd like to do tonight is I'd like to do a shout out to Dan Mainville, because as Mr. Lisi has talked about the innovation part of our plan, Mr. Mainville is now a certified drone pilot and will be teaching the drone program. And so that's a big shout out for us. And then the other thing that I would like to say is I wanted to applaud you too, Mr. Palvino, for the work that you've been doing. I know that you've been losing a lot of sleep for the students of the Fulton City School District. And for that, we are very, very appreciative that you are really taking this to heart and what needs to be done for our students.
Riley, go ahead.
I need a minute. I would be remiss if I didn't stop and say thank you to everyone who has been working straight through. We have a lot of folks that have continued to show up to work every day, and they've not had a break. They don't get a break in the summer like some. And I want to thank those folks, because we have people that are getting the buildings more healthy and ready for our kids and our staff, so that it's as safe as it can possibly be. So again, thank you to all of those folks and all of the folks that are working on our transportation issues, so that will also be very effective, as well as healthy and safe as it can possibly be. And thank you, Mr. Polvino. It's now yours.
Thank you. I was going to say the same thing. There's an amazing team here in Fulton, and all of our stakeholders are contributing to this. I know it's been a long, hard road, and we continue. We're going to need your patience, flexibility, very fluid times. We learn new things each and every day, and we tend to really try to we always put our kids at the center of everything we do. And I think we all remind ourselves of that. And I think that the work that we do here, when we get done with this and we get rolling in September, will it be perfect? No. But I think we're going to have a good program, a good way to start, and then we'll continually assess and get that feedback, and we'll continue to communicate. And there's a lot of communication needs to happen between now and school opening, but it doesn't stop then. If there's anything we've learned throughout this whole process dating back to March, was we're in this together. We're all experiencing a new world in a very different way, and it lends itself to some great opportunities. And for us, it may be, how can we make this the best communication package we've ever had in the history of our district, and how are we working together? And I think it's gonna take some time and some patience, but we're gonna get there. So we appreciate your time this evening, and thank you to all members of the Fulton team for where we're at this moment in time. And with that, Niles, did you want to share about the former Miss Fisher, or no? I wasn't sure if you wanted to share that this evening, Miss.
Yes, we received news today, and I know Tim Crandall, you called us this morning as well, that Sue Fisher, who was a former teacher in the Fulton City School District and was our association president, has passed away. So our thoughts and condolences go out to the family.
So, thank you. I appreciate you being able to bring that up this evening. And her work back then has shaped who we are now too. So again, it's not just the work we're doing now, but our past is what really is who we are now, and we're shaping the future. So, anyway, thank you for bringing that up this evening. And with that, Ms. Griffin, the floor is yours.
Okay. Sad news. I'm very sorry to hear that. New business. So item 3.01 is to improve the instructional calendar we talked about last week. Would someone move it?
Move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Perry, I am a yes.
Okay, Mr. Cordell,
Yes.
Mrs. Alvegore,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Gigelorm,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Yes.
and Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
Item 3.02 is to approve a seeker, a state environmental quality review, which is part of our project. Would someone move it?
Move it.
Move it. Second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Perry, I'm a yes.
Mr. Cordone?
Yes.
Mrs. Alvagore?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. DeJarm?
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
And item 4.01 to adjourn the meeting. Would someone move it?
Move it.
Second.
Abstain.
Any discussion? I would just like to thank any and all folks that tuned in to us this evening. I hope you found this meeting as helpful to you as it has been for myself and I think others here tonight. And again, if you have any questions, email them into us and we'll get them to the right persons and try to get answers out as soon as possible. Mrs. Perry, I'm a yes.
Mr. Cordone?
Yes.
Mrs. Alvagore?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. DeJarm?
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons?
Yes.
And Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Good seeing you again. I hope you have a great week. I think we're not supposed to see each other at least for another week or so. So enjoy your week. Stay healthy.
Depends on what committees you're on.
Oh, that's true. That's true. We may be
All
bumping
righty.
into one another. Take care, everybody.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.